Dan Bongino and Kash Patel now running the FBI. And everybody wanted to get the Epstein documents. Instead, Kash and Dan have both stated they believe Epstein took his own life. Pam Bondi has said, well, we're working on those files and you'll get them when you get them. So people are pissed. They feel like Dan and Kash aren't doing the job, that they're beholden to some unseen powers, that as soon as they got in, all of a sudden, Epstein took his own life. Nobody believes that, but they do for some reason. Now, Dan Bongino has announced that they will be reopening some cases into public corruption, notably the Dobbs opinion leak, the D.C. pipe bomb case, and the White House cocaine cases. I'm going to say right off the bat, yes, I'd like to get an answer as to these cases pertaining to corruption, but these aren't even on my list of what we need to have investigated. Now, don't get me wrong. To be fair, sure, the Dobbs leak, sure. What about Donald Trump getting falsely criminally charged with 34 felony counts that were not real? What about the fraudulent civil fraud case brought against him in New York? We're just sitting back being like, oh, you know what? We all called it. Y'all called it. I called it. They called it. Everybody called it. This is what they do. During the Russiagate scandal, when we found out that evidence was fabricated against Carter Page, they threw some lawyer to the bus. This is the game they play. They're going to go after some low-level staffers. They're going to say, we got them, boys. Thanks for voting for us. And then we're going to be like, yeah, but we wanted the Epstein documents, and we wanted, to be fair, Letitia James is under criminal investigation in the civil fraud case as New York AG. And, I'd like to see Bragg as well. He was the one heading up the 34 felony counts. But to be fair, okay. Now, fine. Right. If Dan Bongino didn't announce anything, nobody would be saying nothing. So he didn't have to do that. I don't want to come down on the dude. I largely do trust Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, but I just think they're humans. I know a lot of people are upset with them and think that they're, they've turned or something like that. I don't believe it. I'll say it again. I said it before. Dan Bongino did not give up a, let's just 8-figure podcast empire so that he could fail and besmirch his good name. So I don't buy it. And it's a good thing they're going after these cases. It is a net positive. I'm just saying, when people are demanding Epstein files and you come out and release this, don't be surprised if they're going to be like, I don't care. These cases are the bottom of the list of what we want to see investigated. Here's a story from NPR. FBI re-examining Dobbs opinion leak, D.C. pipe bombs, and White House cocaine case. Cases. Oh, plural. The FBI is refocusing on 3 high-profile cases that emerged just before and during the Biden administration. Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI, announced Monday on X. The FBI wants to revive or invest more resources into cases that Bongino said pointed to potential public corruption, including the investigation into a pair of undetonated pipe bombs left near the DNC and RNC headquarters on January 5th, 2021, and the discovery of a bag of cocaine at the White House over July 4th weekend in 2023. Now, this is an important thing for most people. The White House complex is massive. And the amount of people that pass through there, this could literally be some random nobody. Everybody wanted it to be Hunter Biden, I guess. It's probably going to turn out to be a random nobody. Or at the very least, they're going to throw low-level staffers under the bus and say, look, we did it, guys. The third case getting renewed scrutiny is the 2022 leak of the unpublished Supreme Court Dobbs decision, which ended federal protections for abortion. An 8-month investigation into the leak, ordered by Chief Justice John Roberts, was unable to identify the person responsible. This is nothing. I'm getting frustrated. This is nothing. It's 3 years now. They're not going to be able to solve this 3 years later. I really don't believe it. Shortly after swearing in, Kash Patel and I value. Oh, let me show you the actual statement here from Dan Bongino, because then they're going to give you paraphrasing and stuff. Bongino tweeted, "Thanks for following this account and allowing us to update you about what we're doing at your FBI. A few updates. The director and I will have most of our incoming reform teams in place by next week. The hiring process can take a little bit of time, but we are approaching the finish line. This will help us both in doubling down on our reform agenda. Shortly after swearing in, the director and I evaluated a number of cases of potential public corruption that understandably have garnered public interest. We made the decision to either reopen or push additional resources and investigative attention to these cases. These cases are the D.C. pipe bomb investigation, the cocaine discovery at the prior administration's White House, and the leak of Supreme Court Dobbs case. I received requested briefings on these cases weekly, and we are making progress. If you have any investigative tips on these matters that may assist us, then please contact the FBI. Okay. The D.C. pipe bomb thing, I think, is a big deal. But the reason why I say these things aren't even on my list, let me clarify. They're at the bottom of it. Obviously, we want to know what happened. I've got bigger concerns about January 6th, like, hey, people in the FBI, why don't we learn about the informants and what they were doing? Who were these people? Why were they there? There are some reports now that some of these individuals were pushing people into the Capitol who weren't trying to go in. With Cash and Dan running the FBI, they now have access to all the files about who was doing what, why the police were standing down. Are we going to get any of that information? You know, January 6th, among other dates, things don't add up, and we want answers. Instead, we're being told, don't worry, they're going to investigate who left those pipe bombs, which is good, don't get me wrong. But I want to know about the informants that were in the crowd. I want to know about the bigger picture. So I'm not trying to rag on the pipe bomb investigation because that is important. Fair point. But it's the bottom of my list. As for the cocaine at the White House, I got to be honest, I barely care about that. I say barely, like sure, someone brought drugs into the White House. Maybe it was Hunter or something. Probably not. Or at least they're not going to blame Hunter for it. But that's not even, that's so, I don't care. People do drugs all the time all over the place. I want to know about what are we doing with these members of Congress that accuse Donald Trump of being a traitor to his country. I want to know about the assassination attempt on Trump. Oh, what's that? We heard there's no there. What? How does that make sense? It doesn't. Okay, then I'm going to say this. That one is offensive to me. It is. I say Secret Service. I know the FBI has no jurisdiction over these guys. Fire everybody. Fire every single. Oh, what's that? Donald Trump promoted one of the guys. And now that one guy who got promoted was the one who helped save his life. Don't get me wrong. But how did this guy get into the Butler, PA place, flying a drone overhead, wandered over a building, climbed on top with a rifle, and no one noticed anything? Fire every single one of those people. But they don't do it. They don't do it. And you know what, man? I've heard a lot of people, even on the right, when Dan Bongino came out and said there's no there, the immediate response from a lot of people was, this makes it sound like Trump was involved. Like the left was right the whole time. The left was right. The left was correct. That Donald Trump was in some way involved in that attempt on his life. I don't know. That seems silly because you can see the New York Times publishing photos of the bullet. And Trump got hit. In the photos, you can see as he's getting hit, the bullet right past his head. Then he goes like this with his hand, and then there's blood on his hand. Immediately. So I don't think Trump was in on it. But it does suggest that someone, there's compromising information. Because I'm going to say it again. How have you not fired these people, Secret Service? How has Trump not ordered all of them to be fired? And then they're just saying nothing's happening. I don't buy it. I honestly don't believe it. This is the challenge. I brought this up on Timcast IRL last week. Let's say that they get in and they find out that if they were to expose this criminal conspiracy, it would open the door to our adversaries, it would rock our alliances, and it could damage the economy to such a degree that the U.S. would crumble. If it actually turned out that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris did order an assassination, what would that do to us politically? And this country would be in shambles. In fact, it could be civil war. I said it. And so maybe what happens is Dan Bongino gets in and they say, if you reveal what actually happened, this country is going to fall apart. And so Dan says, we can't allow that. All right. And so they bury it. That, to me, makes the most sense. That there is something here, but revealing the information would cause a cascade failure of this nation or economy. So they're going to say, nope. Same thing with Epstein. He says, the director and I have done only one media interview together. We decided early on to limit our media footprint overall in order to keep the attention on the work being done. There are both positives and negatives to this approach. We have chosen to communicate in writing on this platform to fill some of the inevitable information vacuums. I try to read as much of your feedback as possible, but the workday is busy, and my office is a skiff with limited phone access. In response to feedback, both positive and negative, from our interview last week, we'll be releasing more information which will further clarify answers to some of the questions asked in the interview. Thank you for all of your support. God bless America and all those who defend her. Now, here's what I say. Why don't you guys go on a podcast? See, Maria Bartiromo's cool. She's all right. I ain't got no beef. You know what I'm saying? However, it's not the same. A sit-down interview, pre-record, is not the same as being live streamed with a conversation saying, what's going on here and why should I believe you? And then they can answer. And when he says there's no there, I'll be like, how are we supposed to believe there's nothing there? This is my response. I like Dan. Dan's amazing. I have tremendous respect for him. Very few people, if any, I've ever looked up to. And what I mean by that is he exhibits the characteristics we should aspire to be like. Giving up an 8-figure empire, the biggest stream podcast, one of the biggest podcasts in the country, to be a public servant. So I do trust him because I can't look at that logically and be like, he's doing a bad job. It makes no sense. I'm like, nah, I trust him. I do. I just want answers. And I don't know that he can give us those answers. So we'll see. But my response to there's no there is, so this guy shows up, and maybe tell me the media reports are wrong then. He shows up, sneaks past security, he's wandering around, he's flying a drone overhead. Not once is he stopped. He's got a gun. Not once is he stopped. He walks over to a secure building. For some reason, the cops just aren't there. Nobody stops him. He climbs up onto that building. Nobody spots him. How does this make sense? You expect us to believe all that? That's ludicrous. And fine. If you want to say yes, okay. Fire everybody. Fire them all. I'm not kidding. Fire every single one of them. Spare me. I don't know how these people have stayed on as agents of the Secret Service if that's what they allowed to happen, let alone get a promotion. But what do I know? I'll be fair. What do I know? I think the reality is, as I've always explained, and this has been my position, I learned this in the Obama era, okay? You can blame the guy, fine, but all of these people are idealistic until they get in and they're handed the real documents. Here's what I think happens. Dan Bongino gets in and says, we want answers. And they go, here are your answers. And they look through it and they're like, holy crap. What do we do? And they're like, well, now you understand our position. And so I'm not saying there's no corruption on the Democrat side. No, I think there is. I think they get in and these agents that some who are actually good are like, if we were to do this, the Democratic Party would implode. This country would be in chaos. There'd be riots in the streets. The economy would crumble. And then they're like, okay. What do you do? I don't know, man. This is why people like me aren't in government, because I'd probably be a bit more reckless. I don't know. I don't know what they're saying. Like, does Dan get in and discover there's aliens running the show, and they're like, we will destroy you if you reveal the truth? Because I got to imagine, for someone like me, and who am I? This is why I'm not involved in the government stuff. I'd just be like, okay, here's the truth. They'll be like, the truth could destroy the earth. I'm like, yep. I don't know, man. Maybe it's reckless. I'm wondering what scenario could occur where Dan would be like, I can't tell the truth now because it's so bad. There is another possibility, my friends. Dan's telling the truth. Epstein took his own life. They don't got evidence to say otherwise. And there is no there. But then there's another question. What about an investigation into, I don't know, Adam Schiff? Cheney. Everybody wants to know what she was doing. She's accused of witness tampering, Liz Cheney. So what about all that? To be fair, I have a tolerance because you don't announce that you are going to go after somebody and give them the opportunity to destroy evidence. Steve Bannon says midsummer, we'll see. So we'll see. Maybe we won't. I'll wrap it up there. Stay tuned. We got more segments coming up for you today, my friends. Thanks for hanging out. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast, and we'll see you all in the next bit.